In this video we're gonna try to recreate this draft I made for the fun palm, and we're gonna start out from scratch. All we need is Megascans with following names. You can find it on Megascan site, or it's linked in the article. And we're gonna create a new scene from here. We use dialog file, new, and use blank. After this we need to populate materials. Material window in my setup is here, but yours may differ. This is where you can pick windows or reattach them and so on. So we need to use plus minus button and create 3 materials, because we're gonna use 3 materials. So we have this one, and also have this one. Accordingly, we're gonna populate them with the files, which is opacity, normal, and albedo. These are the materials I used for the draft, and we have the chunk. We also need to create the mesh for the chunk, so we're gonna use the drag and drop into mesh window, then get back to materials, pick the chunk material, and in the cutout meshes dialog we're gonna pick this mesh. Right now we have our material with the chunk set up, so we pick the main root node called tree and add photogrammetry mesh. In this window, properties, we need to choose material which is going to be used for this mesh. We pick material, we pick mesh inside material. Right now it's kinda oversized, as you can see, so we need to scale it down with the mesh window, mesh dialog inside this window. We use scale and scale it down to something reasonable, something like this. I think we're gonna go for it. After this step we need to use mesh converter. It can be found in photogrammetry, mesh converter. We need it to create the table for the extension of this scan. As you can see, it gives you the preview of what it bakes, and we have these manipulators to help SpeedTree figure out where it should be. You can pick this circle which controls the spline, and use V, E, W to place it more centered inside the mesh. So I'm gonna pick it like this, and we have this texture. Let's try to save it for now and see how it goes. So after this, in mesh converter dialog, we're gonna skip on the settings so we can quicken things up, because more info on how this mesh converter node works can be found on SpeedTree documentation. So I'm gonna pick higher up resolution and make a new material. We're gonna name it fan palm tileable and save it. Now we have new material created. It's called tileable. Let's pick some textures for it. Normal, height. I don't feel like we need it. And we are going to move to the next step. Next step, after we got tileable material, we need to backstage. We use add geometry to select it, photogrammetry, backstage. This node is basically positions. Okay, we're gonna hide mesh converter so it won't get in our way. It's button H, hide or unhide. We have the stage positioned and it's kinda out of place, so we pick this node, press W and position it more centered inside the mesh, so the trunk is extended evenly, it's less out of place. So let's say we're happy with it. We move to the branch node, which is automatically created, and assign material for it. Right now it's inherited, but we need variable. You can rotate the shading with V button. Right now we have this big stitch. As you can see, it's not very nicely blended in, but we're gonna keep it for now because it's a draft and it's not really important at this point. So at this stage, let's extend it. We can pick the branch and switch from percent radius to absolute, and we have this branch, which is basically our trunk, extended from the scan base using bake stitch as a intermediate point, which extends the branch from here. Let's have it something like this, I think, and taper it down a bit. Something like this, or make it a little bigger. After this step, we gonna use the splines to create our fronts and leaves, but for now we need to set them up. We pick our materials. Let's have fronts first. We have these stems, and you have this dialog. We need to set it to two-sided because otherwise material is going to be one-sided. You open up cutout meshes and press add to create new, or edit to exist editing inside the SpeedTree. So we need this one. You can manipulate it with this dialog plus point. Right now I'm using, and so we won't spend time doing all this. We have this erase button. We're gonna just isolate it. It will give us some geometry so it can be bent nicely, and we also need to set up the center of this front. This is the representation of the pivot. Then we're gonna send it into high poly. After this, we press done, and we need another mesh. We press add and make edit again, and then we're gonna get the dry front piece from here. We repeat the same process. Your topology can be set up manually, but so you can quicken things up, I'm gonna use tessellate again, and then set the pivot for it. After this, we are done again. Let's press done, and then we need another mesh for it. This will be our dry fronts. We repeat the same process. Set up the pivot, tessellate it a bit, and send it into high poly, and press done. Right now, let's create the leaf material. We have one already, but I mean we need the leaf mesh. We pick our leaf material, not the dry leaf, green leaf, and press edit. We do the same process. Set the pivot, set the angle, and edit. Oh no, we forgot about tessellation. Yeah, let's have one. Okay, so now we have materials, and we have two-sided here too. Let's check two-sided. We have meshes for the leaf. We have meshes for the stem, dry front, and dry leaf, and also green front. We have the material for the trunk. Here it is. It is linked outside the SpeedTree. because it's external geometry, and we have terrible material baked from the mesh converter. Now we can move on to creating actual generation. The base of these assets are splines. SpeedTree itself is basically a spline generator, and everything is somewhat extruded, attached, or manipulated via splines. So I turned this trunk off to spline mode, so you can see that it's basically an extruded tube. So switching back to polygons, and let's begin with creating the green fronts for the leaves. We use edge geometry to select it. We have some presets: trunk, branches, leaves. It basically is a preset spline logic, but we're gonna start simple. We pick branches and we pick tubes, and we have this weird stuff going on, but it's okay. First we're gonna go to skin, send it to spline only, and set radius to 0. Let's give it more segments. Segments is a parameter which gives you ability to control how detailed the spline is. For example, let's set to polygon, add some skin thickness, and give some gravity. If you have less segments, for example, let's say length absolute, you see it's kinda angular. So because we're not gonna use these branches as a base, we make more segments. So we go back to skin, set it to 0, set it to spline only, and let's have it at 16 segments. So let's have our tubes back into straight shape. We put gravity to 0, and let's use generation tab and push it up. Boundary is basically sets where on the length of the spline the other spline is placed. So we have this branch, which essentially is a spline, and if we, for example, have 50, it begins to spawn more splines in the middle of it. But we have this fan palm, and most of this canopy is placed up on top, so we push it upwards. Then we're gonna set it to interval, we already have it, and make the spread a bit so it spreads out, and spiral, let's say 255. Set the count to 1 and use the frequency. Then we're gonna switch to spline tab, make it go upwards a bit, and give it some gravity. Right now it's way too long, so we're gonna use the spline setting plus parent, but we set it to 0, because if it's plus parent, it uses previous spline as a reference for the new length, but we're gonna keep it absolute. Right now we have it way too spread out, so we put it like this, and now we're gonna assign the front material to it. For assigning fronts, we're gonna use front node. There's also leaf node, which works entirely different compared to front, but for this asset we need only fronts. So we add the front node, and we end up something like this. And let's pick our stems. So you have this first cutout, you can name it so you can easily orientate. And we right now have this front. So now we need to add actual leaves to it. We're gonna use this tube node again. We're gonna copy and paste it, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and we have them extended again. from the spline because we have set it to this frequency. But we're gonna use absolute. Now we need to add another frond. Pick the leaf material, here it is, and we have it place it on the end of the frond. We can manipulate it a bit. Let's see how it goes. So it's more aligned with the frond itself. Right now we have this base spline node which represents frond connected to the spline which controls the leaves, and we can use start angle to adjust how it looks and how it behaves. So our next step is we're gonna add some dead fronds at the top. Right now we're gonna keep it simple like this, and we're gonna need another spline node which I just copy paste because fan palm has a really similar growth pattern and we don't really need anything new. So we have tubes, a button randomize. Right now it doesn't really randomize anything because we have very strict rules for this generation. And then we're gonna have it push it up a bit and make it smaller a bit, and we need another frond. We put it like this, switch to our material. Where do we have it? This is a stem, yeah, here it is, and we're gonna populate the top of this palm with some dead fronds. Make it a bit smaller so it's in scale with the alive green fronds. So here we're gonna attach the dead leaves very similar to this logic. We're gonna reuse this and attach it to the spines we have here. We're gonna change the material, use mesh which is our actual dead fronds, and then we're gonna scale it down. We need to keep everything in scale because this is basically the same fronds but dried out. So we have something like this which is not really convincing, so we're gonna have these spines hang down more. We can use gravity for it. Right now we have not very convincing, so now I'm gonna try to figure out how we can help it. We can scale down the fronds that this is attached to. We can also use this frond itself to give it more gravity. Now we can push him up a bit, something like this, and we have now an issue. We have these fronds kinda out of scale and they look kinda messy. Let's figure out what can we do about it. So my solution here is to open up the front node and squish him down a bit. We can use the scale width parameter here, so they're not that much pushed outside, because on the fan palms they are really hanging down under their weight. So right now let's see how we can make the upper part more massive than down one. We can use the spline parameter here, and we have this green green curve. which controls how the parameter behaves based on the previous parameter. We're gonna use the branch node for this, so it basically means the higher this spline at the branch, the lower it gets, and this point, the lower we have this spline, the smaller it gets. So right now we need to scale down these dry fronts. So we're gonna use the spline for it. As you can see, they get bigger or smaller. And we're gonna make them a bit smaller at the down and bigger at the top. Something like this. Now it's pointing at different directions, and we're gonna try to push them more down with gravity parameter. And we can also fold them a bit, but it's for the experimentation. Right now they're getting out of scale again, so we can try to compensate it with these parameters. We can set gravity, scale, and right now we have something like this. Let's work on the topper part a bit. We can pick the node with left click in the viewport. So let's have, we wanna make them more bendy, and we also wanted to add more fronts that point upwards. For this we're gonna just get this group, copy paste it, attach it to branch. Right now it's in the same position. Let's move it, and we can use the start angle to change their position. So we have something like this right now. We can give them more gravity, and also we have plus minus button to give them more random behavior. Let's keep it more simple so we don't have so much branches on top of it. And we also wanted to vary the angle these branches are pointing. Right now I feel like they're a bit out of scale, so we're gonna scale them down a bit, and also we're gonna scale down the front itself. We also can use the front node capabilities. We can pick these two groups and use gravity for it. Because we have geometry on this, we can allow ourselves to manipulate it. So you put the gravity down, make it more random. You can also fold it, so it's more hanging down, something like this. So right now let's get back to the dead branches skirt and try to make it more appealing. For this, let's try to extend the fronts which are holding these dead leaves a bit further. We pick this spline which is controlling our position of the fronts, and push it outside a bit and push it down in the bottom part. You can pick the spline node and use H to hide it, so it's not getting in our way. And we'll see how we can manipulate it. Let's push it down a bit. Use the start angle. We can use gravity, which controls position of this. Let's hide this one too. Give it more gravity. And we also have this previously created skirt. I don't really feel like we need it, but we can use it for this. We can create a more dripping down shape at the bottom. Let's push him a bit downwards and give him less scale by scaling the length parameter. Now we need the dead fronts. For this, let's see what we can reuse. Have this one, have this one. Oh, here they are. I'm gonna pick these two nodes, copy paste it, use H to show everything else. Ctrl V, put it inside, and then we're gonna make the dead fronts at the bottom. We use boundary for this, which setups where these splines will actually spawn, and give them more interval. We can spiral them down, but let's say we can keep it like this, and give them smaller size because right now they feel like out of scale. Let's hide this one. We can have like a lot of these, so it looks cool. But right now we have this skirt basically eating up all the space, so we're gonna pick the spline that controls it and have the boundary going up a bit. We also need to change the boundary of the down skirt, and we can set the boundary of this node and give it more pieces. Now let's give more variations to these fronts because they look very similar. We need to use gravity for this. We can also scale them down a bit and do some work with the canopy. For example, we can make it more upwards and also give them more random variation. We can use gravity for this. We can also give some variation by start angle and use some shape gravity. At this point, this is pretty much a draft for the work that can be continued, because from this point it's basically experimentation and moving closer to reference. But I also want to show you how you can use procedural tools to really make it different. For example, we can take this mesh and scale it down a bit, like really a bit, so the back stitch won't get out of the position, or you can adjust it. So we have this trunk now thinner. We can also give it more length by picking the branch node and extending the spine. Like we can make it really big. We can use this tubes 5 node, which is our main spline controller for the dead leaves. We can push the boundary up. We can get rid of this. We can also pick these dead fronts, push him by boundary upwards, and we can have like a really tall fan palm, which can be often seen in California. You can also make it a bit bigger, or maybe make it a little smaller, and also pick the fronts that are used for the leaves and really make it rugged down. You can also curl them and so on. All of this can be randomized, so every leaf will be a bit different. Or for example, we can randomize absolutely everything. We can pick this button, we can pick all these nodes and press randomize. And every time within the set parameters we end up basically with a different, somewhat different tree. You can also make it like really small. Let's hide everything so you can work from ground up. Let's use classic generation, so we have just some amount of rows, make it smaller because small fun palms are not that big. You can tone it down a bit so you don't have much of this. Let's unhide the other set. Use classic 2 because proportional, it uses the entire spline length as a reference for the amount of splines that will be spawned, but we have a really small chunk right now, so it doesn't work as we need. And we also can add a skirt back. Where is it? Maybe this. Let's keep it classic too. And push the boundary. Let's have it pushed up a bit. And now we have a really small fan palm.